I think the thing is that Meghan can't decide if she wants to be the silly lady in her kitchen mixing up jam and having sweet moments with untoasted bagels, or if she wants to be a serious person looking for serious change. But to do no due diligence to find out what this is about, and then to so clearly be standing there shocked and a little bit befuddled and chagrined that you had fun in a movie that isn't about good times with the Girl Scouts at all, to be standing there looking so dumb and stupid, when it didn't have to be that way. How hard would it have been to sit down and see what the movie's about, or to call the director? But again, every single thing they put their hand to, it just goes to literal hell in a handbasket. Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Cheer Denise, and we are going to talk about Harry and Meghan today. Now, we have so many stories to get through because they have just fallen into more trouble, more drama, and it all stems from the fact that these people cannot be bothered to do any research about anything. They cannot plan ahead. They cannot imagine what might happen tomorrow. It's just, what am I going to do today to give the veneer that I'm an impressive person? Okay, but the first story I want to talk about is the fact that you guys know that Harry had been in London recently, and he was in court literally crying, saying that the Daily Mail had made his wife's life a misery. Those were his very words.
I made my wife's life a misery.
This blubbering fool crying and weeping and saying that the Daily Mail was out to get his wife. Meanwhile, his wife was literally seen when she first got to England prancing in front of the Daily Mail offices, hoping that they would snap her picture. If anybody has made their life a misery, it's Meghan. Meghan has made her own life a misery, but she's convinced Harry that all their troubles are from some outward source. Some outward source is the one making everything terrible. Not my bad planning, not my foolishness, not my demonic behavior. What I think makes this so delicious, but also just so classically on brand for Harry and Meghan, is that there is actually a real problem that Harry could hitch his horses to. If he really wants to go after the press for all the troubles that they've caused his family, there actually is a place he could go. There are actually real causes where he could fight. And what I'm talking about is, this past week we finished the book of Dianorama. Now, only about 1% of you guys watched that book, which is a shame because the book is 10 out of 10. What the hell am I reading? It is jaw-droppingly shocking. Nobody could make this stuff up. It is like, truly, the world of reality is so much stranger than any fiction you could ever read. And the plot of that book, the story that it's telling, is that Princess Diana in 1995 gave an interview to Martin Bashir, this junior reporter that really nobody knew about. He worked for Panorama, but he was definitely not a major voice. This was no Barbara Walters. This was no Oprah Winfrey. And so for him to come out and get that interview should have caused major alarm bells to ring. But he got the interview, in the BBC, which the heads of the BBC and the people in charge of programming actually weren't made aware of this interview except for 48 hours before it happened, but still with enough time to have stopped it. Because you got to ask yourself, how did Martin Bashir get an interview when Diana's policy was, I don't give interviews? And she had turned down the Barbara Walters and the Oprah Winfreys of the world. But suddenly Martin Bashir, this little goon, has managed to get this interview. Nobody had any questions. They were all just too happy to get it. Then she gives an interview which is explosive and shocking. She's talking about how she wanted to commit suicide, talking about how she was self-harming, talking about her eating disorders, talking about how the family was plaguing her constantly, talking about how she wanted William to be on the throne and to supersede her husband. It was shocking. Appalling. So why would she do this? Why would she say this? Why would she come out like this? People are like, that's not the Diana I know. Her personal assistant, Patrick Jeffson, said, I don't even know who that is. And he'd worked alongside her every day for 8 years. Why would she come out and say all these things? Because she'd been led down the garden path by Martin Bashir, who had gotten somebody to make some forgeries of some bank statements, which he first took to Charles Spencer, Diana's brother. Diana's brother was shocked by these bank statements, which suggested that there were people being paid off in Diana's staff, and that these people being paid off might be in league with MI5. So he arranged for a meeting with Martin Bashir, who said he had more information. And he and Charles Spencer and Diana went and had a meeting. And at that meeting, Martin Bashir began to spew some of the most atrocious lies you could ever imagine. Things like, Prince Charles is planning on killing you, Diana, and the whole Spencer family. MI5 is in league with your private secretary. Your driver is listening in to everything you're saying and spewing it to the media. Your children's nanny is having an affair with your husband. she actually just had an abortion because she got pregnant with Charles's child. Lie after lie after lie. The Queen, she's dying. She's going to abdicate the throne now, so it would be imperative that William get ready to reign, because what we should do is let's take Andrew and put him as regent with William waiting in the wings to come of age. Charles, let's just scoot him out. I mean, it was the most ridiculous set of lies you've ever heard. So after the meeting, Charles Spencer, Diana's brother's like, hey, that was weird. I'm sorry I introduced you to that guy. He's out to lunch. And they went their merry way, he thinking that Diana had also been convinced that they'd had a meeting with a madman. But Diana was not convinced, because life wasn't really going the way she wanted. After all, Squidgygate had just happened, and phone calls between Charles and Camilla had just been released. So was there somebody against them? I mean, for Diana, who really, truly almost liked the drama of the idea of somebody being after her, because it would explain why she was so miserable, because there were forces against her. Martin Bashir's tales and narratives, that made sense. It was what she wanted to believe. So he convinced her using false documents, even false documents, to secure the idea that Tiggy Legborg, the children's nanny, had had an abortion because she was pregnant with Charles's child. He even faxed her false documentation about this abortion. She was so ready to believe that the family had turned against her and that her death was pending, that the only thing that made sense was to give an interview exposing how crazy she believed the royal family to be. Flash forward a year later, and she's dead. And why is she dead? Because she has shrugged off all the royal security, thinking that they were all in with MI5 and that they all had plots and plans to kill her. So she then opted for her boyfriend's Mickey Mouse security operation and drivers who were drunk. Of course, the paparazzi played a role, riding after her in the night, being so wild and driving so crazily. A drunk driver really had not a hope against the crazy driving of the paparazzi around her. But certainly if she'd had royal security and proper drivers, she would have been in the correct hands to keep her safe that night. But she shrugged off the safety. She shrugged off the security. She shrugged off the good drivers, because those people were in league against her, as Martin Bashir had said. Now, the BBC knew within months of the interview going out that Martin Bashir had lied to them, and lied to them very, very convincingly. They knew about it in April 1996, but they were too busy covering their asses that they couldn't bother to pull Diana in and say, hey, we have somebody in our employment who has done things drastically wrong against you and has lied to you on all of these points. Maybe she wouldn't have chosen to believe it, because she'd had other people in her family. The Queen's private secretary, who had talked to Tiggy Legborg, questioned her about all of the rumors about the abortion, about the affair, and Tiggy had been very clear about what had happened. She was not having an affair, had even released private, personal medical information about herself to clear her name. But Diana wouldn't believe that. So maybe if the BBC had come to her, she wouldn't have believed them either. She didn't believe the Queen's private secretary, but of course, in her mind, he was one of the bad uns, Can't believe him. He's all in league. The whole family's against me. But if the BBC had come and said, a man came to your house who works for us and he lied to you, maybe that would have been convincing enough for her. Who knows? She was in a conspiratorial place. My whole point in bringing all this up is, it's a shocking expose about the criminality of the BBC. And the police have turned a blind eye when they were approached to try to do something. Judges have turned a blind eye. And the only person who appears to be at all interested in this is Andy Webb and Charles Spencer, Diana's brother, who's worked tirelessly to get the truth out. But there's one other person who really cares about getting the truth out about this, and that is Prince William, who will one day be King William. Now, he has people on the case. And the last chapter of the book that we read discussed that Prince William has people on the case about this very scenario. He wants the BBC to be held to account for what they did. And as he sees it, Martin Bashir was the one who started it, and the BBC are the one who gave the fire gas. Now that would be a cause for Harry to join. You want to be mad at the media? Because this all stems back to, he always references his mother. It's the tabloids, It wasn't the tabloids that killed his mother. It was the BBC. I mean, you can draw a line from the deception that the BBC were a part of all the way to her death. A much bigger organization has blood on their hands. The tabloids, of course, they're scummy, nasty little magazines. The story here is that the BBC, this paramount of virtue and transparency and truth, the ones you can trust. They're the ones who sent his mother on a journey to complete disillusionment and conspiracy. And even when they knew what the truth was, they did not tell her the truth. They're just too embarrassed to tell her the truth. Why does Harry not care about that story? He's busy in the street having little fights and fusses with the Daily Mail and all these little ragtag magazines because his wife's life's been made a misery because she paraded in front of them and asked them to take her picture. That's not a real fight, Harry. There's a real fight. You want to join it, your brother. He's at the head of it. He cares deeply about finding out what happens. And behind the scenes, he's figuring it out. He's not sitting in court crying and blubbering and having some kind of reality TV moment. He's behind the scenes getting real work done to call real people to account. And that is the difference between Harry and William. One of us is making a show all the time, writing our memoirs and our books and crying and putting on a show all the day long, married to an actress, acting like an actor yourself. Your whole life is a sham. And then we have the person preparing to be a king, acting like a man, doing the work a man does, not blubbering and crying in court. Anyway, if only that was the only thing that I had to say today, it would be enough. But we barely scratched the surface. Meghan and Harry have for a long time tried to think of themselves as these philanthropists, but we still don't really know what they've ever done to help anyone, in any case, at any time. But they love to think of themselves and their Archwell Foundation as really a beacon of hope for the people, One of the things that they have is this Archwell Productions, and this is where they supposedly are funding great films to be made, great documentaries to really help you understand the world. But recently, they attached themselves to a project about the Girl Scouts. Now, I think everywhere else in the world, they're called the Girl Guides, but anyway, doesn't matter. The Girl Scouts sell cookies in order to raise money. And there's this movie called Cookie Queen. And because Meghan's one claim to being just like you is that when she was a kid, her mom, was her scout leader. And she was in this troop. And she references it constantly. Like in her show with Love Meghan, which, by the way, Netflix announced they will not be making another season. And they did not need to announce that. They could have just quietly not done it. But they wanted you to know that they're washing their hands of Meghan. She constantly referenced in the season that she made and split into two that she'd once been a Girl Scout. And she thinks that this makes her really relatable and likable because one time she was selling cookies in front of a Safeway or whatever. And I just want to tell you right now, I've always thought it was weird how she was always talking about it, because if Meghan persistently brings up a point, you can guarantee she's planting the seeds for a later situation, a later project to come out. She never says anything that is organic or natural or normal. Well, of course she was going to mention it consistently because as is coming out, she had produced a movie about the Girl Scouts. However, it would appear that Meghan didn't know what the movie was about. She saw Girl Scouts and she's like, oh, my entrepreneurial spirit was built when I was selling Girl Scout cookies. That's how I became such a great leader. That's how I became a voice of women. It was the Girl Scouts, they taught me. Okay. And all of us are like, anybody who's ever been a Girl Scout knows it was just horrific when it came time to sell the cookies. Nobody wants to sell cookies. Nobody wants to go door to door, which is why nobody does, And that's what the movie is actually exposing. The fact that the model for selling Girl Scout cookies has changed dramatically. It used to be the Girl Scouts would knock on your door or you might see them in front of a store. But now parents are selling them online and parents are basically doing all the work. It's really about whichever parent is most affluent and has the most money and has the most connections and can bring boxes and boxes of cookies to their corporate office in order to sell. That's the child that will be able to go further in the Girl Scouts. That's the child that will get the special cookie selling badge. But did the child sell the cookies? No, the parent did. The parent with enough money to buy enough boxes of cookies so that the child can look like some kind of a star, And so it's this complicated story of how the girls are being exploited. Whichever one is the cutest is the one that's being, set out front at the Safeway when they choose to do it that way. And then on the flip side, you've got parents who are just taken over the whole operation and are selling the cookies for the girls online or at their offices or whatever. But it all comes down to whose parent can buy the most cookies. So it's really not a story about how great the Girl Scouts are at all. But it would appear that Meghan did not know this at all. I mean, she heard Girl Scouts and she and Harry produced the movie and they've been talking about this movie about the Girl Scouts and now it's this cute movie about the Girl Scouts selling cookies and isn't it so cute, the little 8-year-old selling cookies. That's not what the movie's about though, Meghan. The movie's about how the Girl Scouts lost the plot when it came to teaching girls about entrepreneurship, and it just became a way to exploit the children and teach them shoddy selling tactics and how the model for selling cookies has changed. That's what the movie's about. It's it's a minor scandal, but it's kind of a scandal. This is the thing. When it comes to documentary making, there's so many documentaries that can change the course of the public narrative about a thing. And if Harry and Meghan cared to do even a little bit of homework about something, they could probably make a name for themselves by shutting up and never going anywhere, but just pumping these documentary films full of money that happen to do with explosive issues that change cultural topics. There's major conversations that can be had because of a documentary. But the fact that Harry and Meghan did no research about what this movie was and would appear that they saw the movie for the first time at the pathetic little screening at Sundance, that when the movie's over and they're talking to Meghan, she seems a little shell-shocked, quite frankly. Now, about the actual screening of the movie. So the movie goes to Sundance. It's obviously not being funded by Netflix. It looks like they've completely washed their hands of Harry and Meghan. So they're there at Sundance and, Meghan comes out. I don't know who was in charge of wardrobe. You guys, she never seems to want to put any effort into her looks when she goes out to do anything. It's always pants and sweaters, always monochromatic, and always boring as hell. Why are we doing this? And just as another little note, her hair, if this was a team that did this, the next person who should be fired is her hair and makeup team. As has been pointed out numerous times, what the heck's going on behind the back of her ear with these extensions? Who decided to pull her hair back into this ponytail? And, it's like not a beautiful, voluminous ponytail. It's just kind of a sad little ponytail held back by something akin to a scrunchie. Slicked back with what appears to be a handful of grease. This is not becoming. Why would we choose this? We don't have like a hairpiece or something to give her a fuller ponytail? Anything? We wanted to do this skinny little ponytail that exposes her balding head? I guess that's what she and Harry have in common at this point. Anyway, all this to say, at Sundance, she and Harry show up, her in her bland outfits and her balding head and his balding head. And they are having this movie screened at a very small theater. It's tiny. Most of the theaters at Sundance are tiny because the whole point is you want to make it look like, we're packed from wall to wall. But most movies at Sundance do have like lines of people. And there are other movies where you can buy a ticket, but it doesn't mean you're getting in. They had 150 seats just open. 150 seats in a small theater? That's shocking. Now, by the time the movie started, they managed to find some people on the street. Oh, do you want to come in and see this movie? Hey, there's a couple of extra seats. So by the time the movie started, it was like 60 to 70 seats that were still open. Not great. Not great. Honestly, who would be running at Sundance to go see a movie about some little kid selling cookies? I think not. There's some real names, some real movies, some real things to see at Sundance. And I'm not running over to see a bunch of kids selling cookies. I am filled with dread whenever I see the little girls standing in front of Safeway with their cookies because I don't need to eat more cookies. But I feel bad to turn them down, So it's like this horrible tension where I'm like, oh, the poor little kids, But also, I don't need a couple of boxes of cookies in this house. God forbid it, I would eat the whole thing in one sitting. I gotta know what I can't say yes to. And I cannot say yes to the Girl Scouts, but it makes me feel bad. So I'm not gonna go watch a movie where the whole thing is me having to watch these little girls try to sell cookies. I cringe every time. Okay, well, Meghan and Harry are at the Sundance. The movie's not being filled up. A couple of people come to see it. Afterwards, Meghan is being interviewed with the director of this movie, who looks like the sort of person who would make a movie about how exploitative the Girl Scouts are of the youngsters. And she is asked directly, so is Lilibet going to want to be a Girl Scout? We know you were. Now, before Meghan saw this movie, I imagine she would have happily been like, yes, we're so excited. I had such a great experience. It would just seem that if you'd funded a movie about the Girl Scouts and been talking about how cute this movie was and how great it was, it seems like you would be prepared for somebody to ask you, is Lily excited about joining the Girl Scouts one day? Meghan is fully unprepared for this question because she actually says no. Now, whether Lilibet does it or not in the future, it would seem that the correct answer would be, in that scenario, since you have lauded and praised the Girl Scouts as the thing that got you up off your ass and turned you into an entrepreneur, it would seem to me that you would say, like, I had such a great experience and we're hoping that one day Lilibet will have the same. That's not even a yes. But that's not what she says.
The question, you have a young daughter. She's maybe a little bit too young for Scouts at this point. Do you want Lilibet to be part of Girl Scout?
It's interesting. I think we'll continue to explore whatever feels right. But Alyssa's also a mom of a daughter. And I think for both of us working on this project has been incredibly special as parents, as mothers, to be able to see something that our girls will be able to watch and enjoy as well.
The kicking it off to the director being like, she's got kids too, are you going to ask her? Like, Meghan, have you ever talked to anybody about anything at any time in any way? Are you familiar with the concept of answering questions? This person's not asking about them. They're asking about you. But you don't want to answer the question, probably because Lilibet isn't real. There's also that. I think the thing that is so humiliating for Meghan and Harry is that once again, they failed to do the research that could have made them successful. What if Meghan had seen this movie, if she'd known what the movie was about, if she'd bothered to do any due diligence whatsoever, she could have still funded this movie. It could have been, I grew up with the Girl Scouts, and I'm really surprised and saddened that it seems like it's shifted more to making money and the parents are really involved, and we're losing the element that made this so worthwhile for the girls, them learning how to sell a product. And that was really useful for me. So to see this shift into something that parents are taking over and sort of helicopter parenting the whole experience, what a tragedy that is, But Harry and Meghan are constantly talking about how much they care about kids. To fund a movie, to clearly not know what it was about, as you discuss, we've got a movie at Sundance, it's all about the Girl Scouts, but never talk about what the essence of the movie is, which is, hey, they look like they're exploiting kids over there. To never seem to acknowledge that that was what was coming up, or to prepare people for, hey, because we love kids so much and we're really invested in the care of kids online, we're also looking at other platforms and other places where kids historically have been safe to be, but now it seems like there's kind of a nefarious element there, and we want to investigate that and bring it back to something where girls are thriving, rather than a scenario where the girls seem like they're almost being taken advantage of. That could have been a really interesting thing to discuss. I think the thing is that Meghan can't decide if she wants to be the silly lady in her kitchen mixing up jam and having sweet moments with untoasted bagels, or if she wants to be a serious person looking for serious change. But to do no due diligence to find out what this is about, and then to so clearly be standing there shocked and a little bit befuddled and chagrined that you had fun in a movie that isn't about good times with the Girl Scouts at all, to be standing there looking so dumb and stupid, when it didn't have to be that way. How hard would it have been to sit down and see what the movie's about, or to call the director? But again, every single thing they put their hand to, it just goes to literal hell in a handbasket. How could you not have known what this was about? To show up at Sundance and get on stage and talk about, we're really excited about this movie, we can't wait for you to see it, and then get off and be like, no, Lily might, we'll see what happens with Lily in the Girl Scouts. Ridiculous. Meanwhile, the other story that's going around is yet again about that Kardashian birthday party. Now, I don't believe for a minute what Kim Kardashian has said about the pictures being taken down. Kim Kardashian absolutely knows she's got to go with the softer version of reality. Even the truth that she's telling us does not have the ring of truth. And even if elements of it are true, or what she was told, we all know it's not the case. Now, Kim Kardashian has come out to say that the reason the pictures were taken down from the party is because Harry and Meghan remembered suddenly, oh, it's Remembrance Day, we shouldn't be seen partying, that's inappropriate, please take them down, even though they'd already been up. That's Kim's version, and this is how she says it.
Meghan Markle.
Oh, the photo
gate from Mom's 70th.
It was really innocent, which is so crazy. Mom and Meghan have been friends for some years now, and they have a really sweet relationship. We took a photo, and then I think we were all going through them. We're all, communicating about like what we're going to post. We're never ones to post without permission. We are like, it's not who we are.
We're very respectful.
Yeah, like we have the craziest, funnest photos from that night, but we were posting just like fun photos. And so
dignified photos.
We were totally, we were told that it was totally cool to post. And then after it was posted, I think they realized it was Remembrance Day and they didn't want to be seen at a party, even though it's already up.
Mm-hmm.
And then taken down. And then I think they realized like,
But Kim, you were so clever, aren't you? Because what you didn't say was that Harry and Meghan had been invited. You said mom has known Meghan for a while and they have a sweet relationship. That does not mean that she was invited to the party. Interestingly, also in this conversation with Khloe, they call up a mutual friend named Jonathan. Jonathan is talking to them about the party and what a great party it was. And Kim whispers over to Khloe, should we talk about the party crashers? There was only one conversation about any party crashers there, and that was Harry and Meghan. Okay, but they don't go into it. They kind of gloss over it. They keep talking. And when they circle back around to talk about Harry and Meghan, it's suddenly this PR story that has clearly been constructed in order to answer the why did that happen question. But we don't believe it. Again, because they never say that Harry and Meghan were invited, which was a clear point of contention. Why were they there? And we know that Harry and Meghan had been at an event earlier that night for a charity event. But if Meghan was planning on going to a secondary event, you're going to tell me that she wouldn't have planned to wear an outfit that was appropriate to that second event? As other people have pointed out, this is a person who has multiple wardrobe changes when she goes to the Invictus Games, a charity for veterans who have been disabled. So you're going to tell me she has all the time in the world to pick out different outfits so that she can be the star of the show when we're trying to focus on veterans, but she somehow couldn't manage to come up with a secondary outfit for this major Kardashian birthday party? No, because she crashed it. She was at a party. She was at a charity event with lots of other celebrities, and all of the celebrities were going over to the Kardashian party, and they decided that they were just going to hop on and sort of jump in with the mix, and maybe nobody would notice. But then people did notice. Also, how is it that you just remembered it's Remembrance Day, but Harry has a poppy? I guess he remembered earlier that day it was Remembrance Weekend. You know, so I'm sorry, this story does not hold water. I know this story sounds like it's the one you should tell in order for everything to seem so innocent and not a big deal, but what you're really telling me is a story about a couple of hypocrites who were willing to party during Remembrance Day weekend but didn't want you to know about it. Who wins in this scenario of the truth? There really is no way to redeem this story. The idea that you crashed, bad. The idea that you wanted them taken down because you looked fat, bad. The idea that you wanted them taken down because you didn't want anyone to know that you were partying on Remembrance Day when you should be a little bit more sober-minded, bad. If they had just left the pictures up, the story would have died. Who leaves the pictures up, lets people see them, and then takes them down and thinks that they can sort of just scuttle into the bushes and no one will know? No one will ask any questions about what this was. What? I mean, these two are operating with half a brain cell between them. The things that they do. Harry not fighting alongside his brother for real justice. Meghan producing a movie telling us it's all about one thing. Turns out it's about something quite sinister and dark. Didn't seem to know that was coming. But she produced it. She wanted all the credit for that. But she couldn't bestir herself to find out what the movie was about. And both of them showing up at a party. Not invited. Looking fat. Looking disheveled. Not remembering that they need to be sober-minded. And then thinking that they can just pull the pictures down and no one's going to say boo and that the Kardashians will come out and be their mouthpiece for them. You can tell that neither one of them are convinced about what they're saying in this whole segment between Khloe and Kim. And the fact that Kim wanted to tell the real story earlier and say, should we talk about the birthday crashers? The party crashers. Should we mention it? She wants you to know the real truth. Kim Kardashian can be diabolical too. I mean, she did not rise to the levels of the fame and the fortune that she has because she was a wallflower. She's moving and shaking behind the scenes of her own. So they've come out and thrown a bone to Harry and Meghan and told the lie Harry and Meghan wanted us to tell, but they told it like they didn't believe it themselves. And that really is all that we have to talk about today. I will see you guys tomorrow for the Friday News Roundup. And then next week, we'll have a more normal week. This entire week was just so off because the kids have been out of school. We got a lot of snow here in Northern Virginia. And I guess we're just not able to handle the concept of a lot of snow. I mean, the roads are cleared, but somehow the children are still home from school today on Thursday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's been a lot of not going to school this week when we could have. Anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow for the Friday News Roundup, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.